A young woman was unexpectedly found dead, and her mother suspected something more sinister. Probably her drifter husband was to blame. When her daughter appeared to her as a ghostly figure, she confirmed her mother's suspicions and all the details of her own murder. Would the ghost story be enough to bring her killer to justice? This week's episode is The Murder of Zona Heaster, the Greenbrier Ghost.
A bump in the night, your heart fills with dread. Probably a murderer who wants you dead. It could be a ghost, a demon, or worse. Perhaps you're the victim of a witch's curse. It's hopeless, you're doomed. You'd call a priest if you could. You'd rather just listen to Sinisterhood.
Heather, this is very exciting.
Today is quite a day.
Today is a very special day.
Two special guests, two special buddies. Say hi, y'all.
Hello.
Hey.
Okay. Wow, one's confident, one's not feeling great.
I'm just so excited.
We're so excited.
We just listened to you do the intro, and wow, I would have assumed if it were the two of us that would have taken 10 minutes of doing it over
absolutely.
and over again. You just nailed it. That was just one and done.
Yeah, stars.
One take McKinney.
Wow. One take McKinney. That's what they call her.
One
and
call
done
me
McKinney.
West.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have Em and Christine from And That's Why We Drink with us today.
Yay.
The crowd goes wild.
Mommy, you'll edit in applause right there.
Oh, perfect. I thank you for having us, and also now that I've heard the intro, I just have the song in my head. So you, by the way, I wanted to make a note that best theme song I've ever heard.
Oh,
I'm
thank
sure you get that a lot, but it's true.
It's a mixed bag.
It's funny
a
that you
mixed
say
bag
that, because we recently got an email. It was very complimentary, and then at the end it said, "And I don't care what anyone says. I like your theme song." And Christy said, "What do people say?"
What a weird backhanded compliment.
Yes. And then I asked Tommy, and he was like, yeah, I've seen some things. And I was, because he keeps things like that from me. And I was like, what? And he's like, there's just some people on Reddit don't love it. And I was like,
we avoid Reddit
always,
like the plague. It's out there.
Oh yeah.
But we get a lot of compliments on it as well. So you know what? You can't please everybody all the time.
It's
And
true.
our compliments mean a lot, right, Em?
That's all. Yeah. If you guys like
that's
it,
all
then
we need.
It
is
stays
M's
forever.
compliment. Yeah.
We love a good compliment, and we're also Geminis, and we at least believe in the Gemini notion that we need attention, and arguably positive attention.
Always.
And
Preferably.
if someone said that they loved our theme song, I would just ride with it and ignore all 100,000 other people. So
Exactly.
That's what you
know
gotta do.
If they don't like the theme song, they're banned. They're not allowed to listen anymore.
Yeah.
You're blacklisted.
You're banned.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, Christy wrote it, and I sing it, and my neighbor helped play the piano for it.
Mhm.
I say
This is
help.
beautiful.
Only him. I can't.
He
play.
helped. You just hit
I
one
put
key.
my fingers
Yeah.
on his.
Yeah. He used his pointer fingers, and then Heather did all the rest with
That's
all
beautiful.
of her fingers. And it was a really fantastic
Nice of you to make them
mashup.
feel
it was
included,
actually
yeah.
the cat that just walked on the piano
Yeah.
perfectly the whole time.
Spooky. Well, yeah, we tried to pick a ghastly and a crimey mix for y'all, since that's, a little bit of both. And also, I know, Em, you're from Virginia. This is West Virginia, so not quite
Perfect.
neighbors.
Thank you for saying that, by the way, because we've talked on our show that there's a shocking amount of people who don't know that they're two different places.
What?
A lot of people think West Virginia is Western Virginia, and we just it's so notable that we're just like, oh yeah, West Virginia, you get it.
It's a separate thing.
It is a separate.
It's been separate since the 1800s.
You would be surprised how many people introduce me as like, oh yeah, I'm from West Virginia, and then I'm like, no, just Virginia, and they're like, well,
It's the same, whatever.
Yeah,
and you're
you
like,
get it.
no, actually, it's really
quite
not.
different, I think.
Separate. There's a welcome to sign. That's how you know you're in another place.
yeah.
If it
And
says
it's
now
like,
leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Heather's
yeah.
from Oklahoma. No, we're from Texas. It's whatever.
right
They're
there.
next
It's
door
the
to
same
each
thing.
other. It's
Same
fine.
thing.
difference.
It is confusing in Texas because there's Western Texas. Like, oh, it's in West Texas. And there's also a city called West Texas. So people usually say, oh, it's West, Texas.
Well, I
Mhm.
have
Oh my God.
noticed that it's more over on the West Coast that people are confused about it, and I like to say it's because they are just so far away from West Virginia and Virginia. They don't know.
I mean,
they also
that makes
like
sense.
in California, so many people say like, oh, I'm in SoCal, which like to them, Southern California is California. So it makes sense.
It's a big, long state.
I mean, I don't know where anything is in the Midwest, so I get it. Yeah. I'm real bad at geography.
We were talking about possible tour dates and we had to pull out a map. We're like, oh, Louisville and Cincinnati are like right by each other.
Sort of.
Well, I mean, not like they're closer than anywhere that Dallas
yeah.
is.
No, they're
in the middle of nothing. Yeah.
I live in Kentucky now, so this is my only point of reference. I still know nothing about anything around me, but
your old sweet Kentucky home.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
But if you showed me, like, if you asked me where Utah was, I'd be like, I gotta be completely honest. There's just no way I'm gonna know that. So
like, if you go to Vegas, you keep going up, like you'll hit it probably.
It's like a lot of desert, I think.
I just finished Breaking Bad. That's the desert I'm trying to go to.
Oh, what'd you think of that finale?
I got a lot of opinions. We can't get into it here. We get to it offline. Oh man, I got a lot to talk about. Yeah. So we're going
welcome, because it aired, I don't know, 8 years ago or something like that. But welcome.
I keep being like, no spoilers, you guys.
They're like, don't worry, we're not reporting on that.
Yeah,
people are like, no, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
I couldn't spoil it if I wanted to. Yeah, well, we like to start off by saying thank yous, and our biggest thank you, of course, goes to you guys for joining us.
Shucks.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.
So many listeners have been asking for this, so giving the people what they want.
And anytime we get y'all are coming on our show, so we're very excited for a little crossover situation.
We are very excited.
It'll be fun. Well, we usually say our names, and then you've heard it, so let's roll with it. And then you guys say your names, so we'll all be part of it.
We struggled counting, so we'll see if we can
that was, you know what? That might be a Patreon content of us trying to count to get that going. Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
I'm Christine.
I'm Em.
And let's get into it. Greenbrier County, West Virginia, is a small county located in the southeastern portion of the state in the valley of the Appalachian Mountains. Formed in 1778, Greenbrier is one of the earliest counties of West Virginia. A century later, in 1875, Jacob Hedges Heaster and his wife Mary Jane made their homestead in the small town, raising their 7 children, 6 boys and 1 girl, Zona. That's a lot of kids.
Someone mentioned.
I was going to say, and only 1 girl.
Yeah. Oof.
So just like, not to like stereotype here, but I'm imagining like 6 very wildly active people, and then someone also told to like stay inside. But like,
farm kids. There's and then
also one that like can't leave the kitchen.
Exactly. You can't go to town. You can't go to town, Zona. They can. You can't.
Zona's like, I have to cook for 6 of them, and then also mom and dad. This is
I'm not allowed to play hoop and stick with my brother. How sad. It's very tragic.
No, you can churn butter. That's your toy for the day.
How much butter can you churn? That's your game.
Described in the Greenbrier Ghost Chronicles as a beautiful child, Zona had long dark hair, soft brown eyes, and a kind disposition. Being the only girl, her brothers were often protective of her. She also had a very close relationship with her mother, Mary Jane, a devout Christian who took Zona and her brothers to church every Sunday. Well, that's shocking that they were devout Christians in the 1800s.
And also 7 children through. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Elsa praise.
This was this was very normal. They were like the Joneses. They were just the typical family back then.
It doesn't sound any different than any other. I mean, not that I'm an expert on 1800 stories, but.
Oh, what if you were, though?
Okay.
What a flex to be like a professional 1800 storyteller.
If I was, I'd probably say this tracks so far. So
thank you. You're a professional in my eyes, so we take it.
Yeah, if you cover enough ghost stories, you're an 1800s professional for sure.
What is it? What does Malcolm Gladwell say? How many hours do you need?
10,000.
10,000. We got that. Y'all definitely have got that.
I feel like we've got to have hit that at some point.
I've certainly, I'm just going to say yes. I don't know if that's true. We don't know how to count, but 10,000 sounds accurate.
Claim it.
Right.
Zona was happy and carefree well into her teenage years. When she was 16, she met a young man named George. The couple quickly fell in love, and Zona soon became pregnant. Tragically, Zona's infant son died shortly after birth, sending the young mother into a deep depression. While she eventually learned to cope with the grief, those close to her said she was never the same again. Well, that's understandable.
Yeah, and I think they said she stopped really going into the times she would go into town with her brother. She really didn't. She kind of just hung close to home, which
Isolated herself.
yeah.
Yeah. Just 20 or so miles north of Greenbrier County in Droop Mountain, Erasmus Stribling Shue was born in 1861, one of 9 children to Jacob, a blacksmith, and his wife, Elizabeth. At an early age, Erasmus was given the nickname Trout and was spoiled by his mother and siblings due to his, quote, delicate personality, according to Nancy Richmond, retired judge, certified genealogist, and author of the Greenbrier Ghost Chronicles. As a teen, Trout apprenticed under his father to become a blacksmith.
I just have to say, if your name is Erasmus, like any nickname is cool.
Like your
I'm so glad you said it because I was like, wow, they really were thinking we got to give this guy a nickname Trout. Like, and they were probably like, honestly, whatever. Like
They were fishing. They're out there. They're like, what are we going to call you, Rasmus? Oh, wait, you got one. Reel that in. And then that's how it was born.
I was just playing a game last night with my girlfriend where we both pick an old sounding name and try to see who won by how, like, who has the older name.
Oh, that's fun.
That's fun.
Had I had Erasmus, I'm pretty sure I would have won immediately.
You have it now. Just keep it on the DL so we play next time.
I know.
Yeah, tonight you're like, hey, you want to play that game again? I mean, no reason. It's not like I don't have anything teed up. What was the best old timey name y'all came up with?
I got I think Esther is from the 1890s. And then for boy names we did Milton.
Oh, my grandpa's name.
Oh, was it?
Milton Loring.
My grandpa's middle name is Milton.
Nice.
And then there was like we picked Beatrice, Francis, Mildred.
Mildred's good.
I mean, the goal is to eventually get past the 1850s because we couldn't do it last time. So. But Erasmus,
that's when you gotta go to.
Erasmus?
It's a good one.
You gotta go to Europe and do all the like weird old German names.
The only rule is you can't use Bible names because it's too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
That makes sense.
hard.
We're having a fight in my current relationship because I'm engaged, not pregnant, but someday we hope someday to have a child.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've decided that we will name our son Mortimer, and my fiance Paris is very against it. He said it's the stupidest name. He said, "Who's famous named Mortimer?" I looked it up. No one that's been born since 1926.
I know. Mortimer Mouse. That's Mickey Mouse's original name.
There you go.
Was it really?
Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty? Are you kidding?
Oh, yeah, Rick and Morty. Duh. Yeah.
So he said, "You just want to be able to go. Come on, Morty. Let's go. Get in the car, Morty." I was
Morty
like,
is so good.
yeah. Morty Brown is the
Mortimer
best.
As a baby, because little babies look like little old people.
Yep.
So you automatically have like this little old Mortimer just all scrunched up. That's
I
super
think it's
cute.
perfect.
Good. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
perfect.
He'll look like the proper Benjamin Button. He'll look like an old man anyway. So you know.
Little baby
Now,
Mortimer.
now a 16-year-old Mortimer is a different story.
That's when
He's
you got
gonna-
the trout. That's when you get the nickname.
Yeah, that's when you gotta
throw
be like,
something in
now
there.
you go by Catfish. Yeah, exactly.
That's a kid who has Erasmus as a nickname. To be fair.
Erasmus is kind of badass though. Like
I
that's one of
think
those that
so.
if we brought it back now, it might be kind of cool.
You could be like Raz. Like Raz.
Raz is fun.
I like
yeah.
it.
Razzmatazz. That's the
Well,
the club.
Christine, I don't know if you have a ongoing list of baby names, but
Oh yeah.
Feel free to
Since I
add
was like
this.
5. Don't worry.
Razzmatazz Schieffer.
it's just written in crayon.
Erasmus. Erasmus Cheever. What a freaking name. Oh
I
my
like
God.
it.
Perfect.
I love it.
On Christmas Eve, 1885, Trout married Allie Cutlip, a young woman who was both pretty and inexperienced in the ways of relationships, with Trout being her first beau. Unfortunately, Allie quickly learned that Trout's personality was not delicate at all. Rather, he was abusive and violent. He would leave his young bride often, going off for days at a time without telling her his whereabouts. After Allie gave birth to their daughter, Gerda, Trout's behavior became even worse. Shortly after Gerda's first birthday, he tried to kick his wife and baby out of the home. When Allie refused to leave, instead, he tossed all of her belongings outside on the ground. He then packed his stuff and walked out on his family.
So Trout sucks.
He
Trout
was
sucks
over
big
it.
time.
I thought we were gonna like Trout, but no.
No.
Yeah, you said it was badass, and I have yet to see that happen.
He's just
No.
bad. His
He's
name's
just
bad.
He's
out
just
of the
bad.
bone.
Yeah.
Imagine though if like back then they took the wife's name because Trout Cutlet would be like
That's a gang member name,
That's all
like
I
in
can
the
think about.
50s, like where you're gonna snap. Trout Cutlip's coming. You're right.
Mhm.
I like to think there's a fish gang out there where everyone's named after a different fish. And they're like, you don't want to meet salmon. You're going to get killed.
Puffer's a bad bitch.
Yep. Unable to keep a job and without money, Shue stole a horse in 1888. We're going to call him Shue throughout this too.
Mm-hmm.
He was sentenced
changes his name.
He changes it eventually. He was sentenced to 2 years in the state penitentiary for the crime. The following year, Allie filed for divorce, telling the court,
He, without any cause, abandoned and deserted me. He moved out when Gertie was about a year old.
according to Richmond's book. The divorce was granted, and when Shue was released from prison in 1890, he did not try to contact his ex-wife or see his daughter. He also began introducing himself to others as Edward, hoping people wouldn't make the connection he was now an ex-convict.
You got to rebrand. You got to come out of jail and rebrand.
Can't blame him
It's
for
like
that.
Trout's dead.
Trout's dead.
Trout died. He went to the pond in the sky. And, you know, back then there wasn't social media or anything. And it took like a year for somebody to ride on a horse to tell the next town what was going on.
About a year, yep.
You just have to say, my name's Edward. And everyone's like, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you just started over
Just
back
say
then.
so.
There's no
Yes, you did.
paperwork.
No, you could be whoever you wanted to be. It's actually quite refreshing. Apart from the fact that, you know, you died by the time you were 30 usually,
Right.
but everything else was great. Shortly after he was released from jail, the 33-year-old Shue married 16-year-old Lucy Tritt on June 23rd, 1894. The marriage lasted just 8 months before ending tragically. According to Richmond, Shue claimed he climbed on the couple's roof to fix some storm damage on February 11th, 1895. As his young wife kindly brought him a glass of water, Shue accidentally dropped a brick from above, hitting Lucy in the head and killing her.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
And for
don't
all the
trust him.
things to drop, like a brick is a pretty gnarly one. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
oh, I dropped my dainty little, branch
Bucket.
of leaves.
An empty bucket or a
An empty
broom.
bucket.
Just he dropped a
Yeah.
brick.
Yes.
Like
Oh.
the thing that will hurt the most.
Yes,
Like, what are the odds?
absolutely.
And it didn't just, I don't know, I'm not a physicist here, but imagine if you drop a brick, it would bounce down the roof and then hit the ground, not go out and over and into a head unless you wanted it to. Just saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you should be in the FBI, Heather.
Working
You
on it.
connect the pieces that no one else can. Lucy's family immediately suspected foul play from the man who had married their daughter only a few months earlier. The townspeople were also suspicious of Shue's role in the young girl's death, claiming he was not upset by his loss. More alarming was the bizarre statement Shue had been known to make to friends, that he wasn't upset about being single again because he felt he was destined to have 7 wives in his lifetime.
Whoa.
For his part, Shue demanded he was innocent, telling the sheriff as much when he was questioned about his second wife's death. Fortunately for Shue, there were no witnesses to the accident and nothing could be proven.
What a goal.
Dropping a brick on
Perfect
someone
crime.
is a perfect crime. I mean, how would anyone know unless they saw you
Mhm.
just, throw it?
That's true.
I feel like if they had the window units back then, it would have been a lot easier though. Like,
Mhm.
those window units that fall in New York City. And kill
Oh,
people.
yeah.
Just like that. I feel like that could have been a brick just seems a little too, as we said, intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Two on the nose.
I
on
just
the
know
nose.
if I hear a rumor that a guy's looking for 7 wives in his life total, and you got to be like, how many times have you been married? And unless the answer is 6, you just don't marry him.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll circle back.
Yeah, call
in a
me.
few years. But like, yeah, to be fair, that wasn't really smart on his part to marry. He wants 7 wives. He marries a 16-year-old. Like that's when you guys start marrying. Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like
16.
80-year-old. Well, no one,
think's gonna
I mean,
happen?
I don't think anybody lived to be 80 back then. Like you marry like a 25-year-old who's just got a foot in
Just
the
right
grave.
on the end of her life. Yeah.
That's called game over anyway. Yeah.
That's right.
Marry a
nature.
spinster.
I will say that TV and movies made me very fearful of the New York air conditioner falling
Yep.
on my head. And when I went to New York for the first time, I was legitimately concerned walking down the street that
Oh,
one was going to take me out.
I
It
feel like
didn't,
it's
but it
happened.
is really gross that the condensation drips from it and it
Yes.
falls on you as you're walking down.
It's
That
almost-
was
I
It was
about to say
almost
worse.
worse.
It's not
Yeah.
worse, but
No.
it's almost worse.
That's the
It's
thing they should have
almost.
warned us about. Like,
probably
Yes.
deadly.
I feel like
that's what can
as-
really happen.
Yeah.
as an adult, the New York air conditioner, the window unit is like what quicksand is to children.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
shit is gonna
Yes.
get you good. And
Mhm.
and then it's just like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It just rains on me. You know?
Yeah.
In Chicago, they always tell you there will be icicles that fall off this building and they
Oh,
will
yes.
impale your face. And there were sludge would fall, but it's not a spear like coming directly. I guess if you looked up, but it was mostly just like ice sludge. And some of the buildings were kind of shaped in a fashion that would cause sludge to come down on you. But it wasn't, but it was like you said, it was like quicksand where every time I would walk under a building, I was like, ugh, it's happening. I'm just going to walk in the
terrifying.
street. I'll just walk in the street. It's fine. It's fine.
I wonder sometimes if quicksand is even real. Is that a real thing?
It's a real thing.
I think like somewhere far away from wherever we are.
You know
It's
what
not
I
gonna
learned
be.
is actually scarier than quicksand though, is getting stuck in like a bin of grains, like in like a silo.
Oh, yes.
Like
yes.
within
Get
20
out.
seconds, you're dead.
Yeah.
Quicksand, at least, like it's actually surprisingly not quick, and you can make it out. But when you get in, suffocated with grains, it literally
Okay,
takes. less than
Emma's
30
like that kid in
seconds.
my elementary school where I would come home and be like, Mom, I can't sleep. This kid at school told me this horrible story about it's even worse than quicksand. I'm gonna drown in a pile of grains.
And then you got major problems with ball pits. Although
That's exactly
Heather did almost drown in a ball pit when she was young, and her sister saved her. So
There's video footage of my parents are filming me, my sister's doing backflips and having fun, and then she climbs up into the tubes at Showbiz Pizza, and I'm just kind of having fun, and then slowly, and you see me, and I start crying, and I just sink down, and my parents don't jump in. They film. They can. My dad was like National
zoom in.
Geographic. He would be like, we can't interact, we can't interfere. We have to let them learn.
Let
So
nature take its
let
course.
nature run its course.
I just was sucking down. And so my mom's going, Shannon, to try to get my sister to come save me. And some random little kid comes by and like scoops me up under my arm and pulls me to the side and saves me. And my own sister comes back very irritated because she was trying to climb in the tubes. But
course.
it's just all on video footage. And again, at no point did my dad go, I got to put this camera down and go make sure my kid's okay.
Yeah.
He just kept
That's
rolling.
some like planet Earth shit. Like,
Yeah.
don't interfere.
it's like March of the Penguins. You know,
The child
you
will
lose
go.
some along the way.
It just happens. That's showbiz, baby.
That's how that saying came to be.
Yeah, exactly. It's
That's right.
showbiz pizza.
You climbed out of those balls and you said that's showbiz, baby, and you got it on camera. And ever
Waddled
since,
away like a
it's been written in
penguin.
record.
Well, Shue packed up and moved to nearby Greenbrier County, where he took a job blacksmithing at a shop owned by a man named James Cruikshank. One day, on a visit to town, Zona Heaster met the tall, muscular, brown hair and blue-eyed Shue. She had recently started to venture out again and was trying to rebuild her life after the loss of her son and subsequent breakup with George. Zona was immediately taken with Shue, who had introduced himself as Edward rather than Trout. For Shue, the feeling of adoration was mutual. Not everyone was so keen on Shue, however. Mary Heaster didn't trust him one bit and thought he was arrogant and had a wandering eye. Despite her mother's pleas for Zona to break off the relationship, the courtship continued. Before long, the couple eloped and were married on the afternoon of Tuesday, October 20th, 1896, according to the marriage announcement in the Greenbrier Independent. Because it was known Zona had given birth, she did not wear a traditional white dress. Instead, she said,
I do.
in a dark red gown with a high collar up to her chin, adorned with lace.
Yeah, Mary had a stink eye for this guy. Mama had a stink eye from day one.
Mamas know.
She said he was very flirty with the women in town, particularly the very young women in town. So Mama thought that was, I mean, she was
Either
right.
like flirting with them or dropping bricks on their head.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Nothing good. Nothing in
Mhm.
between.
Nothing
No.
but trouble. Nothing but trouble.
The book that we both read as one of the resources for this, the Greenbrier Ghost Chronicles. Heather, did you read in the foreword what the
Yes.
author said about the red dress?
Yes, they said they had a ghastly encounter with the
Yes.
printer.
So
Printer.
because
That's great.
she buried the lead because when they were trying to decide for the cover art of the book what color to make her dress, because they painted a picture of Zona in her wedding dress, and because everything was black and white back then, they were like, what color do you think it would have been? And they were printing out some samples, and it was a black and white printer, they said, but all of a sudden the dress printed in a dark red color
Get
on their
out of
printer.
town.
Mhm. So they really feel like Zona was trying to communicate with them from beyond the grave. And that's why her dress on the cover is red.
How spooky is that?
Yes, I know.
Get out of town. That is pretty crazy. Okay.
Mhm.
She came to them through the printer. I mean, if you're a ghost in the 2021, you have to figure out methods. And I bet electronic devices is the easiest way.
Okay, but if you know how to run like a fax machine and a printer and you're from the 1890s, you're on the up and up.
Like, I don't know how to run a fax machine.
No.
So.
I will say I have, and not to totally derail, I have done investigations where I've had to teach ghosts how to use phones, and which is insane, having to explain like texting to a ghost. But
it's like having to explain it to your grandma.
Yeah.
I imagine. Yeah.
They're like, use the buttons, and then you just get really obscene emojis. You're like, no. Oh God, come on.
The eggplant. That's not what you think it means.
It's just a lot of water droplets. It's rude.
Well, I'm just shocked that like no one taught her how to use a printer.
Yeah, she figured it out.
Yeah.
She's like, that's the magic of HP. They're very easy. Anybody, even a ghost can learn how to use them. This podcast is brought to you by.
Well, Zona was not happy in her marriage. Once funny and charming, Shue was now aggressive and demanding. To make matters worse, Zona was isolated from her family, with whom she was very close. The one positive in the young bride's life was that she believed she might be pregnant, something she longed for. In January of 1897, just 3 months into their marriage, Zona asked a local doctor, George Knapp, for a visit. While the doctor said it was too early to tell if she was expecting, he assured Zona it was possible, leaving her feeling hopeful at last.
I just feel like for like a superhero name, Dr. Knapp is the best.
Yeah, that does sound like, it sounds like he'd be evil though.
It also doesn't sound like he's very good at what he does. He's like, it's possible you're pregnant. And she's like, cool.
That's not any more information than I knew before you showed up.
Yeah.
It's the John Mulaney bit of the cops back then when they were like, I have a hunch.
Yes.
There's all this blood and evidence over there, but let's ignore that and focus on my opinion.
But also, like, you didn't have sonograms and stuff. So wouldn't it just be like, well, we'll wait a couple months, and if you start showing, then I'd say you are. Yeah. It's like, well, I didn't need you to tell me that.
It's like, what were you here for then?
Why am I paying you?
Yeah.
How did one become a doctor back then? Because it seems like was there schooling?
I mean, I feel like back then it was all apprenticeships, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
somebody
it was
had to be the first one.
I mean, I
Someone
feel like every time I hear one of these stories, they're like, at age 12, he went to Harvard. And I'm like, what? What are they doing over there at age 12 going to Harvard?
And 12 to them was like 20 to us.
That's true. This is the
But they
inflation rate. Yeah.
If they had to have a conversation with us today, they'd be like, I don't understand why you didn't get into Harvard at 12. And it's like, Dad, are you kidding me?
Losers.
Fair point.
We all
You're
tried.
like, well, we lived to 105. So what do you think about that?
In your face. Sinisterhood will be right back. I don't know if you guys know this, but I technically have a cat. It just lives with my mom. It was my college cat. And when I tried to take it back, my dad got really sad. So his name is Fred, and he lives with my mom. And he's really a sweet boy. But as much as I love him, he's real fussy with his litter box. And my poor mom has to deal with all of his stink bombs, but everything from cleaning to covering up the smell, it's a constant battle for my dear sweet mother, who she's like, damn it, Fred, but she loves him. But come on, that's up until she started using Pretty Litter.
Pretty Litter is kitty litter reinvented. Unlike traditional litter, Pretty Litter's super light crystals trap odor and release moisture, resulting in dry, low-maintenance litter that doesn't smell.
And Pretty Litter is virtually dust-free because it's manufactured with a specialized de-dusting process. Less dust and no fuss. Meow.
Pretty Litter arrives safely at your door in a small, lightweight bag that lasts up to a month. And with litter bags auto-shipped, you don't have to deal with last-minute trips to the store. And shipping is free.
But above all else, here's why Pretty Litter is a pet parent's hero. It's a health indicator. Pretty Litter monitors your cat's health by changing colors when it detects potential underlying issues. You will not find that kind of innovation in any other conventional litter.
You won't find that innovation in just modern medicine, as far as I know.
Can we get that in human toilets? Or
I do not. My toilet water doesn't change colors depending on my health. I wish it did.
Mine
if that's
does.
Something I can do. Get the world's smartest litter without leaving home by visiting prettylitter.com and use promo code CREEPY for 20% off your first order. That's prettylitter.com, promo code CREEPY for 20% off. prettylitter.com, promo code CREEPY.
I think we just established that my evil superhero name is Dr. Nap, which means I love my Helix mattress because I sleep on it all the time. It feels so good on my back and my spine. And also I can do all my naps there.
Yes. Oh, y'all know that I'm kind of a picky person. And I went through several mattresses before I found, and I shipped them back. Like I slept on a mattress for like 30 days and I was like, you are not the one. And I shipped
mortifying
them
to me.
back. It happened 3 times. Tommy was like, we could sleep in a cardboard box. I don't care. Just keep what, but when we got the Helix mattress, we fell in love with it and it stayed. It was the winner. It was the
one. The one. Helix Sleep has a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete and matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Why would you buy a mattress made for somebody else? You'll probably just send it back like Christy did.
Everybody's unique and Helix knows that. So they have several different mattress models to choose from. They have soft, medium, and firm mattresses. Even mattress is great for cooling you down if you sleep hot. It's 1 million degrees outside right now. So this is very important for us here in Texas.
I took the Helix quiz. I was matched with the Moonlight Luxe mattress because I wanted something that felt soft and plush. And I sleep on my back, side, stomach, all the things. And it handles it all.
I got the Helix Sunset Luxe because I like a super soft, pillowy feel and primarily sleep on my side. It also said it was great for couples because it reduced motion transfer, which as a very light sleeper is always a problem.
If you're looking for a mattress, you take the quiz, you order the mattress you're matched to, and the mattress comes right to your door, shipped for free. You don't have to go to a mattress store and sit on mattresses that people have put their dirty butts on.
Just go to helixsleep.com/creepy and take their 2-minute sleep quiz. They'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life.
And they have a 10-year warranty. You get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free, and they even pick it up if you don't love it, but you will not send it back. You're going to love it.
Mm-hmm. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/creepy.
That's helixsleep.com/creepy for up to $200 off and 2 free pillows.
On January 23rd, 1897, Shue went to work in the blacksmith shop as usual. That afternoon, he asked Martha Jones, whose son Andy would run errands for the people in town, if Andy could run up to the house and check on Zona, who was feeling ill. According to Richmond in the Greenbrier Ghost Chronicles, Martha said little Andy, who was just 11 years old, could swing by the house a little later. Shue was not pleased and asked Martha 4 more times throughout the day if Andy had gone by the house yet.
It's pretty rude. You ask somebody to do you a favor. Is it done yet? Is it done yet now?
Unless
Also,
you're wanting them to find something.
Back in the day when someone was sick and you could just tell a child to cross town
Yeah.
and alone do a report on
Well,
like
he probably
how,
went to Harvard. He was like 12, right?
He was a Harvard graduate, and so
He's a
he's
doctor,
very
don't
smart.
He could go and do a full exam.
you could look at her and be like, pregnant.
You could be pregnant. It's possible.
Maybe.
Anything's possible. When the child was finally able to make the trip, he was met with a grim sight. Noticing blood on the front porch, Andy tentatively knocked on the door. When no one answered, he slowly made his way inside, nervous what he might find. To Andy's horror, there was more blood, and the trail of it led to Zona Heaster, who was lying dead at the foot of the stairs, the 2-story log house. According to Richmond, the child ran home to tell his mother what had happened, exclaiming,
All the doors were closed and there was an air about the place I didn't like. And there she was, stretched out on the floor, looking up at me through wide open eyes. She seemed to be laughing. I was frightened, but I was still able to reach down and shake her. But she was stiff and cold.
Later testimony reported in the Pocahontas Times said Andy
Found the dead body of Mrs. Shue lying upon the floor, stretched out perfectly straight with feet together, one hand by the side and the other lying across the body. The head was slightly inclined to one side. That's cool that you sent a kid to find a crime scene. That's one.
Yeah.
And at such urgency too. Of like, like we need you to be traumatized by now of what's happening.
Come on. I know you have errands, but I know I'm a walk-in and you had reservations, but could you just like get me in?
I don't know about y'all, but when I faint, I do so lying perfectly on my back with my feet
absolutely.
together and in a very dramatic pose.
Also smiling. Wasn't she smiling?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
A la woe is me, you know.
Good child. This poor child.
This poor child, honestly.
Martha broke the tragic news to Shue, and the 2 of them and Andy ran back to the house. There they found Zona just as Andy had described her. While Martha and Andy ran to get Dr. Knapp, Shue broke tradition of the townswomen preparing the body and changed Zona's clothes himself, dressing her in her dark red wedding dress, pulling the collar up to her chin, tying it with a bow, and lying her in bed covered with a veil.
Don't worry about it. I'll do it. You guys. Anymore. It's cool.
When Dr. Knapp arrived, he tried performing an exam on the body. However, Shue became
extremely agitated and even threatening
towards the doctor, according to Richmond. When the doctor tried to look at Zona's neck, Shue suddenly became inconsolable, cradling his wife's head and wailing at the top of his lungs. Trying to show compassion for the man's grief, Dr. Knapp abandoned the exam. He declared she
died from an everlasting faint,
known today as a heart attack, according to Appalachian history. Later, her cause of death was changed to childbirth. Knowing there was a possibility she was pregnant, Dr. Knapp decided a miscarriage might have been responsible for Zona's passing.
This doctor is playing fast and loose.
Seriously.
He's just, oh, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Oh, wait, that's exactly what happened.
Like, how much did you look at her? He's like, I knew. I just looked at her. I knew, sometimes.
She fainted, and obviously it doesn't matter, actually.
I went to Harvard. I'm a Harvard alum.
All you have to do is show your diploma.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was women's troubles, and everyone was like,
women's
yeah, probably.
Definitely
She
women's
was
troubles.
Hysterical.
Yeah. Say no more. In fact, you didn't even have to give this explanation. She was a woman, and therefore she died, and we all get it. I will say everlasting faint is a much nicer way to say someone had a heart attack.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
It also sounds like a cool alt band name.
It does.
You guys were everlasting faint. We're super stoked to be here for you guys.
My favorite thing was when we first started out, I didn't know that tuberculosis used to be called consumption, and I thought it just meant you were really hungry. I was like, oh, I've had consumption so many times.
Yeah, it was literally episode 2, and I was like, and then she died of consumption, and Em laughed for like 10 minutes. I was like, it's not funny. Why are you laughing?
I was like,
I thought that was a joke.
I'm surprised I haven't died from that yet. It's crazy.
Like, I got a touch of the consumption. Like, oh God, you need to go to the doctor. I just need a sandwich. It's fine.
Yeah. Everything was so much flowery, like so much more flowery in the terms of death names.
Oh yeah.
2 young men rode from town to Heaster Farm to break the devastating news to Zona's family. Upon hearing the unimaginable, her mother cried out,
"The devil has killed her."
AKA.
It was a feint. Hang on.
Yeah. She's like, the devil, her menstrual cycle.
I was going to say women's troubles. Yes, yeah, difference.
Her lady problems. We know married, and she thought he was the devil, though. She's
That's
like,
right.
that brick throwing bastard.
Mm-hmm. Zona was placed in a coffin and taken by carriage to her parents' home. Meanwhile, Shue refused to leave his wife's side or let anyone touch the body. At the wake, he stuffed a pillow and some sheets in the coffin around Zona's head, telling others he was trying to make her more comfortable. The odd behavior escalated when Shue tied a scarf around his wife's neck, saying through tears,
"It had been Zona's favorite,"
according to Appalachian history. Before the coffin was closed for the final time, Mary Jane removed the pillow and sheets. When she offered the pillow to Shue, he recoiled. Shue then left as the dirt was being placed over his wife's coffin.
So he was very sad, as opposed to Lucy, who is like, well, I got to get numbers 5 through 7.
It's just a brick.
Yeah. Well,
He cried.
People get smacked in the head all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, nobody touch her because of my sadness.
And her favorite scarf.
Shit, I'm just so sad.
When Mary Jane went to wash the sheet from her daughter's coffin, something foreboding occurred. In the Greenbrier Ghost Chronicles, Richmond describes that as Mary Jane dropped the odd-smelling linen into the wash basin, the water allegedly turned red. The color then soaked into the sheet, turning it from white to pink. Despite Mary Jane's efforts to remove the stain, it wouldn't come out. The grieving mother took this as a sign that her daughter had been murdered.
Everything was a sign.
Everything was a sign back then. Yeah.
Ask the 11-year-old doctor. He'll know.
Where's Andy?
Well, he's traumatized. We'll give him another day.
Yeah,
Let
Andy
him-
is crying in the corner and is in a comatose state.
Andy's retired. Leave him alone.
He was like, that was my biggest case ever. I'm out now.
Every night after the rest of her family had gone to bed, Mary Jane would go lay down in the bedroom that once belonged to her daughter. She prayed for an answer as to what happened. Then, one night, her daughter appeared. In her book, Richmond says that Mary's vision began as a glowing light in the corner of the room. As it became stronger and brighter, the light took on the image of Zona. She was wearing her wedding dress she had been buried in and appeared sad. Zona told her mother that she had been strangled by Shue so hard her vertebrae broke and her windpipe was crushed. He had choked her so hard the blood had run from her mouth, explaining the blood young Andy had seen when he discovered the body. Over the next few nights, Zona appeared before her mother 4 times and repeated her story, each time with more details. The specter told Mary Jane that Shue had become angry with her for not preparing any meat for dinner. Zona had not been feeling well that day and had instead laid out a meal of bread, butter, fruit, and preserves. Zona said her husband became enraged by this, telling Mary Jane,
"Ma, he just took his hands and squeezed my neck off,"
according to the Greenbrier Ghost Chronicles. Oh,
Mary Jane.
yeah. Poor
Also,
Mary Jane.
Let's talk about the fact that like the wife didn't feel good, still made sure you had something to eat, and you kill her.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
That's
If
your
I-
reaction.
If I were sick, I'd be like, Allison, I cannot stress this enough. You are so on your own when it comes to dinner. Like,
Yes. Tommy doesn't even have to. First of all, Heather and I say all the time, we don't cook. Tommy and Paris are the people that cook in our home. So I would just look at him and be like, "You want me to go get you Whataburger? What are we doing here?"
Yeah, exactly. That's what takeout's for.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. Because she thought she was pregnant, so she wasn't feeling well.
She probably felt like shit. I mean, it's,
yes.
a couple months ago, I wasn't making squat for dinner. So
Hell no. No.
I also like that she's gone back and forth with the mom being like, "Are you getting all this down?" Like, I don't know. Why
I
am
need to repeat myself.
like
Yeah.
it's been 5 nights and you're doing nothing with the information.
But it does kind of like make sense now with the printer situation. Like she spent years like building up the story, and now she's like figured out how to make the printer bleed red.
If she
Yeah.
was like, if I
needs
could get
this
through
story.
if I could get through my mom on night 1, I can get to the printer in like 300 years.
Sure. Exactly.
Yeah, she just kept. I think each night she said she was more and more. Instead of ghastly, she was solid. Like she would reach out and touch her.
Ooh.
Yeah. Mary Jane said she could touch her, hold her, and she would try and talk to her and ask her questions, but all Zona would say was details about what had happened to her.
Wow.
I'll stop going off topic.
Yeah, she's like, I have a limited amount of time. All right. Things are real busy over there.
This takes energy. Thank you.
Yes, a lot of energy I had to muster to get here. We can't catch up right now.
Where is your notepad?
She's like, I'm a woman. It's the 1800s. I'm not allowed to have a notepad.
Sinisterhood will be right back. With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouthwatering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable.
HelloFresh cuts out stressful meal planning and grocery store trips so you can enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in just about 30 minutes.
HelloFresh offers 27 plus recipes to choose from each week, from vegetarian meals to calorie smart choices to craft burgers and extra special gourmet options. There's something for everyone to enjoy, with all recipes designed and tested by professional chefs and nutrition experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity.
Enjoy a wide variety of easy, delicious options for all 3 meals a day, plus every snack and special treat in between with the HelloFresh Market.
Well, Tommy and Paris are the chefs in our house, and they both love HelloFresh because it makes life easy. You have all the ingredients right there. You don't have to run to the grocery store, and we can also skip on the takeout, which is just too much. It's too often. It's too often.
Ella loves it too. And, if we can get our 3.5-year-old to eat vegetables and fruit, then yes, please sign me up for this box. Yes.
HelloFresh's fresh ingredients are sourced directly from growers and delivered from the farm to your front door in under a week. Contact free, of course.
Plus, it offers the flexibility you need to easily customize your order on the app within minutes.
Go to HelloFresh.com/creepy12 and use code creepy12 for 12 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/creepy12 and use code creepy12 for 12 free meals, including free shipping.
Convinced more than ever that her daughter had been murdered, Mary Jane took her information to John Alfred Preston, the Greenbrier County prosecuting attorney. Despite the woman's unusual story, Preston was respectful and listened to Mary Jane. He then assigned county deputies to interview a list of witnesses Mary Jane had provided. When Dr. Knapp admitted that because of Shue's demeanor, he had not conducted a full examination of Zona's body, the prosecutor was convinced that to settle the matter, there would have to be an exhumation and autopsy.
Yeah, you can't interview the medical examiner. How'd the autopsy go? He screamed a lot, so I just shut it down.
So sad, you know. I just didn't want to interfere.
He was bummed. Like, I don't want to make him sadder and be like, let me cut your wife open. But
Like
maybe
her favorite scarf. It's a whole thing.
Exactly. What is wrong with you?
If anything, I can just give you a guess like everyone else is fucking out of this story.
True.
He's like, well, I grabbed into my cause of death bucket and I pulled a paper out.
It said
was
women's
some fancy
troubles.
words.
You know what? Probably women's troubles.
Oh,
They're
yeah, the
women.
women's. Yeah, it's the women's bucket. It only says women's troubles.
Yeah.
I don't even need to reach in the bucket.
On February 22nd, 1897, 3 doctors, including Dr. Knapp, conducted the 3-hour autopsy at the local one-room schoolhouse. The school children were sent home, and tables were moved into the classroom for Zona's body to be laid out. Also in attendance was a constable, a judge, 5 impartial men, and Trout Shue, who put up a fuss the entire time.
I canceled school to do the autopsy.
This is amazing. That's like,
Yeah.
Some
when I wish I
kids
could
get
time
snow
travel.
days.
yeah.
But now we get autopsy days.
Wow.
Can you imagine like the school is and on the weekends it's just the coroner's office.
Yeah.
Same.
The morgue.
It's a nice room.
We like to upcycle and reuse rooms. What's the
Mhm.
problem with that? It gives us more time, more space.
Classes are canceled today. There's been another murder. But then the teachers at the end of the year are real bummed out because they got to make up all the autopsy days because into summer vacation. Despite no embalming fluid having been used, Zona's body had been preserved due to freezing temperatures. Beginning the autopsy, her stomach contents were analyzed for any sign of poison. While none was found, it was noted that the remaining food in her stomach confirmed that her last meal had been fruits and preserves, just as Zona's ghost had told Mary Jane. It was also confirmed Zona had not been pregnant, ruling out the possibility of a miscarriage being her cause of death.
Wait, so she wasn't pregnant
Spooky.
after all that?
She wasn't pregnant, and
Oh,
she
wow.
had really had fruits and preserves as her last meal.
Wow.
Just as the ghost foretold.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Spooky.
The answers the team were looking for were found when they began to examine Zona's neck. As the stiff collar from her dress was removed, bruises in the shape of fingers around her neck were clearly visible. Her head also lolled to the side when unsupported. As the doctors continued the exam, they discovered Zona's neck had been broken between the first and second vertebrae. The ligaments were torn and ruptured, and her windpipe had been crushed. According to Richmond, when the doctors declared Zona's cause of death was strangulation, Shue shouted,
They can't prove I did it.
well,
That's what you should say.
yeah.
If you're innocent.
Shue was arrested for the murder of his wife. At the preliminary hearing, a judge determined there was sufficient evidence to charge him. He was held until the April Circuit Court term. On Thursday, April 22nd, 1897, a grand jury was convened and reviewed the evidence against Shue. He maintained his innocence, but the grand jury found sufficient evidence to indict him on the charge of murder in the first degree. How common is this, Heather?
What, being charged with murder?
Because a ghost came to the mother of the victim and the case was reopened and the body was exhumed.
It's not very common.
Okay.
Never seen it. But I will say, I feel like the prosecutor, he is, like we said earlier, burying the lead. He's trying to say, there were some anomalies with the autopsy. That's why we reopened it. It didn't really have anything to do with the ghost. But the ghost is the one that kicked all this off.
Yeah. Hello.
Right. For sure.
I do
Just kinda-
respect the court though when they're obviously believers in ghosts and they're like, this is a good enough reason. This
Yeah.
checks.
Yeah. I mean, the
Absolutely.
prosecutor can choose to bring charges or not. And after you hear that the medical examiner, when you go, what was the autopsy? And he was
Yeah.
like, not applicable. Like,
It was nothing.
did not do. Then you kind of have to look into it. And then I think the hands on the neck, that's a clear indication of murder. And I would imagine someone screaming, you can't prove I did it. Maybe
You know, a couple red flags.
a little suspicious.
The ghost just did the first domino and everything else.
Yes.
Just kind of-
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
she was just the catalyst.
Mhm. Shue spent the next 4 months in jail. He exhausted his cellmates with his arrogant proclamations that there was no way he would be convicted on such poor circumstantial evidence, and how when he got out, he would get back to wedding his eventual 7 wives.
You know, he's goal oriented.
You got to have hope in prison, you know?
He has one goal. I mean,
Whatever it takes.
Mhm.
jeez.
On June 23rd, 1897, The case of State versus E.S. Shue began. A jury of 12 men was seated. In his opening statement, the prosecutor conceded that there was only circumstantial evidence, but assured the jury that the evidence was
such as had never been presented in any court before,
according to newspaper reports of the trial.
Yeah, he really did not. The prosecutor does not mention the ghost.
Yeah,
Not once. No.
He's all about, he's like, there's handprints on the neck. We have a broken windpipe. There's a closed situation. The suspicious behavior at the funeral, after the funeral, all of his boasting.
The mom's not going to testify because we don't need her telling her ghost story.
He's like, we'll just be really thoughtful about the questions we ask.
Yeah.
He seems to be very professional in his job, which seems to be a first in this
whole
story.
That's true.
He takes it serious.
He didn't immediately say it was her menses. We're not taking this on. The prosecution called many witnesses, including Dr. Knapp and Martha and Andy Jones. However, their star witness was Mary Jean Heaster. Concerned how the grieving mother's ghost story might read on the stand, the prosecutor did not bring up Zona's visits from beyond the grave, but instead focused on Mary Jane's relationship with her ex-son-in-law.
I just imagine that the defense attorney, knowing that there's this ghost story, is like, let me get up. Like he's just waiting for cross-examination. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And we'll see. That's a bit of a misstep.
They brought their partner and they're like, just wait. You're going to love this. Hang on.
Just watch.
I'm going to be at my best. Yeah. On cross-examination, however, the defense attorney did ask Mary Jane about the ghostly encounters, hoping to discredit the woman's sanity to the jury. Unwavering, Mary Jane testified that she believed she saw Zona in the flesh and blood during her visits. She also said her daughter
turned her head completely around and looked at me like she wanted me to know about it,
implying this proved her neck had been intentionally broken. When the defense attorney asked whether Mary Jane was
positively sure
that the visits were not a dream, Mary Jane replied,
"It was not a dream. I don't dream when I'm wide awake."
Oh.
So suck on that.
If they had mics back then, she could have dropped that bitch right there on the courtroom floor.
Wow.
Mary Jane went on to tell the courtroom in great detail the things her daughter had revealed to her.
She came back and told me that he was mad that she didn't have no meat cooked for supper. But the second night, she told me that her neck was squeezed off at the first joint, and it was just as she told me.
According to the Greenbrier Valley. Neither the prosecution nor defense objected to Mary Jane's testimony, so it was admitted into the record. According to Richmond, this is the only time testimony from a ghost has been accepted into a court record in a U.S. murder trial.
So, like, this is clear hearsay, right? Hearsay is an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So Mary Jane is offering this to prove that that was how she was killed. That's how her daughter was killed. The defense was calling her to make her look bad. I think he underestimated how much the jury believed in ghosts.
Yeah, it's the wrong decade or the wrong century.
Exactly.
But like if hearsay is admitted into the record, or if hearsay is put on the record and nobody objects to it, then it can't be questioned later.
Right.
So the prosecutor wasn't gonna, he didn't bring it up because in theory, the defense attorney could have objected. If he said, Mary Jane, how did you know to go and have your daughter dug up? She could have said, well, she came to me in the night and she told me she got murdered. Well, the defense would say objection, hearsay. Well, so instead the prosecutor just kind of danced around it. And then when the defense brought it in, the prosecutor didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Whoops.
Kind of genius.
That's the one jury I would love to be with. I would be like, yeah, that's right.
On this jury.
I'm so on board right now. Yeah.
I think it's time that we have another ghost testimony in a U.S. murder trial.
Seriously. Wait, I also love that they specified murder trial. Like, are there other trials where ghost testimony has been introduced?
We're like,
a lot of civil trials with ghosts.
Like tax evasion.
Yeah.
My expert, he's not here with us, but he was with me last night and said what I did was totally legit. But yeah, it's pretty genius on the part of the prosecutor to just sit there and be like, I have nothing, Your Honor. Just let it in. You do that on purpose, man.
Love it.
Well, then Shue testified on his own behalf. The Greenbrier Independent described his erratic behavior on the stand.
He was given free rein and talked at great length. He denied pretty much everything said by other witnesses, and he appealed to the jury to look into his face and then say if he was guilty.
Okay.
He also in jail, one of his attorneys to call 120 witnesses on his behalf, character
Such
witnesses.
a list.
Oh my
which
god.
has to be like 10 towns back then, right?
Yeah.
It was the whole state.
The entire state, I imagine. Yeah.
Also, I feel like nobody liked him.
No,
Nobody
yeah.
liked him.
He was
It
he
It
didn't
sounds like-
know. He didn't know
sounds
how
like a-
hated he was.
like a narcissist thing to be like,
Mhm.
oh, well, just ask all 120 people in the next 10 towns. They'll tell you.
Yeah.
And also look at my honest as can be face.
Mhm.
You get
Also,
it,
my
right?
name is Trout, so I don't think we should even worry.
I have a delicate personality.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like, you mean interview the people in the next town whose daughter you threw a brick at her head and killed?
Exactly.
Yeah, those people.
They love me. They love me. Also, I've seen his face. He's got a murderer face. You can tell.
She's got a
I
murderer
don't say
face.
that. I don't say that often, but
It applies here.
mhm.
Well, the jury looked into Trout Shue's face and apparently saw all they needed to know. On July 1st, 1897, the 12 men deliberated for just an hour and 10 minutes before
Wow.
delivering their guilty verdict and recommending that Shue be sentenced to life in prison. Newspapers at the time reported,
Though the evidence was entirely circumstantial, the verdict meets general approval.
little did Shue know he had narrowly escaped death. 10 men had voted for him to be hanged, but without a unanimous decision, it couldn't stand. By the skin of his teeth on that one.
Just barely. So two people were like, that ghost, I don't know if she was telling the whole truth.
Let's not go that far, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
Shue was remanded to jail in Lewisburg while he awaited transportation to Moundsville prison, according to Richmond. On Sunday, July 11th, 1897, a mob of townspeople decided that the jury's recommendation of life in prison was insufficient and decided to take Shue from the jail and see him hanged themselves. The local sheriff was warned in advance by a concerned neighbor and convinced the 30 angry men to give up and go home. According to the Beckley Post-Herald, a terrified Shue had already been removed from the jail, handcuffed to a sheriff's deputy, and hid out in a cornfield all night, safe from the angry townspeople.
This is what we saw in the Santa Claus robbery where justice is done and the
Yeah.
people in the neighborhood go, no, we're gonna handle it.
far
We're going to take this. Yeah.
This poor
I like-
sheriff.
I like, though, that back then you had to go hide in a cornfield if you were going to be safe for the night.
was he was handcuffed to a sheriff? Is that
So
what
he couldn't run away.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah. So the two of them just had to sit in a field of corn for hours.
Oh.
What did
Wow.
you like 20 questions? What
I
were they-
guess.
How do you
Hey,
entertain yourself?
What are your hopes and fears?
Yeah.
Well, my hope is to have 6 more wives.
Yeah.
And my fear is to get taken by this mob. Oh.
They're like, what's the oldest name you can think of? Let's see if we can get to the 1600s.
Well, I mean, I just like that reading this, a concerned neighbor heard this crowd screaming and he kind of was like, yeah, what's the plan out here? And they're like, we're going to get Trout Shue. We're going to take him out. And he's like, well, let me go inside. I'm going to get my gun.
Yeah.
But instead he went and ratted him to the sheriff. I was like, I think some shit's going down.
You gotta drag that guy to the cornfield stat.
Yeah.
Get him out of here to the cornfield of safety.
On July 14th, 1897, Trout was taken to Moundsville prison. While he had been given a life sentence, his life ended up being cut short. Just 3 years after his arrival at Moundsville, the flu epidemic hit the prison hard. And on March 13th, 1900, Trout Shue died. No one from his family came to claim the body, according to the Greenbrier Valley.
I believe too, Droop Mountain, the newspapers. I went through a lot of old newspapers for this one, and it was like, he will not be missed. It was like Trout Shue of Droop Mountain has died. We don't care. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Better when they
Front
talked about
page
women
news.
and they were like, she wasn't very attractive. We don't really know why everyone cares. I'm like, some of these old newspaper articles are horrifying.
Yeah,
She
they
was
are.
a plain looking woman. You're like, that's not relevant. Okay.
Not at all.
Also, she was lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
He also drew a really freaky picture while he was in jail. Allegedly, they think that he drew it, but it's him and Zona, and she's kind of above him, and there's some flowers, and people they wonder if it's his regret, or maybe she came and visited him in the jail. Who knows?
Oh, I bet she did.
Mhm. Or
Yeah.
he drew the picture, and then she came and visited and was like, "My head's not shaped like that."
What the fuck?
Fuck.
Yeah. Also, his family never once came to visit him in prison. Didn't come to visit him. Didn't pick up the remains. So even his own family was like,
Right.
"You are the worst, Trout."
You're dead to us, Trout.
Sad.
Author and historian Katie Letcher Lyle wrote a book on Zona's story called "The Man Who Wanted 7 Wives." In her book, she postulates that Mary Jane concocted the story of Zona's visit from various sources. For instance, Zona's obituary was published January 28, 1897 in the Greenbrier Independent. In that same edition of the paper, a similar story was published on the front page, which read,
"One of the most famous murder cases in Australia was discovered by the ghost of the murdered man."
well, I guess it's universal. See, we need to look into Australian cases.
This is not a one in a million story, apparently.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was.
We did just say U.S. murder trials. So, you know,
You did.
Other countries are like, catch up, you guys. They're very valuable witnesses.
So behind.
The ghost story took hold in the Australian town until the dead man's body was found and his killer brought to justice. The truth was that a witness to the murder who had been threatened with death started the ghost rumor in order to incite an investigation. Could Mary Jane have seen this article and been inspired to try and get an investigation into her daughter's death the same way?
Yeah, that's the theory that Ms. Lyle in her book is that Mary Jane saw that this guy started a rumor that said, if you go to this bridge at night, the ghost of so-and-so who had been murdered will come out and talk to you. And he talked to me when I was on the bridge and he told me that his body was in the ravine. So go out. So it became this like haunted bridge that everybody wanted to go to the haunted bridge. Well, really, the guy that started the rumor saw the guy get murdered and the people that murdered him were like, if you tell anybody, we'll get you. So he kind of just started his own rumor and everyone's like, yeah, they're saying that the ghost, you know, you go down there, you see.
Pretty genius.
It was a good way. It was a good way to tattle without tattling. And so then it came out that he really had made this whole thing up. So Katie Lecker-Lyle's whole book it's a very skeptical look at the story. So she put it 2 and 2 together. But the front page news article the day of the obituary, surely Mrs. Heaster would have seen this and was like, just give me some time.
Just you wait.
Until her death in September 1916, Mary Jane Heaster repeated her story to anyone who would listen. While Zona Heaster's ghost was never seen again after visiting her mother those 4 times, her spirit has been forever memorialized. Near Soul Chapel Methodist Cemetery, where Zona was buried, stands a historical marker erected by the state of West Virginia. It reads,
"Interred in nearby cemetery is Zona Heaster Shue. Her death in 1897 was presumed natural until her spirit appeared to her mother to describe how she was killed by her husband, Edward. Autopsy on the exhumed body verified the apparition's account. Edward, found guilty of murder, was sentenced to the state prison. The only known case in which testimony from a ghost helped convict a murderer."
They're still calling him Edward? Like they didn't figure out his real name by now?
Loose man back then.
Yeah. He had 8,000 names.
He deserves a Rathsmith all over again.
Yes, I agree. That's where it all began.
We're taking away your nickname. Mary Jane kept up with the story. She also responded to skeptics when they would interview her and say, well, how exactly did it happen? And really tried to poke holes in her ghost story. And she never wavered.
Wow.
Nope. For 20 years, she lived after the trial and
she was like,
she never wavered once.
Where you were like, oh God, we're going for tea. We're going to hear this story all over.
She got really good candy, but buckle up.
I feel like if you were going to go to her house for a party, the mutual friend bringing you is like, look, do not ask her about this.
Do not ask me.
Don't mention ghosts. Don't mention daughters. Don't mention trouts.
Don't mention preserves. If there's bread, don't mention fruit. Don't mention butter.
Honestly,
just keep your mouth shut.
Just say you're actually not feeling good. And get that out.
And then she'd be like, you know who wasn't feeling good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so what do we think?
1000% it was a ghost.
She had to have come back. How would she have known those details to tell?
That's the thing.
That's the thing yes, because I could see that she may have seen the story in the paper and thought, oh, this could be a good idea. But how would she have known to give the story to the prosecuting attorney that she was strangled and her vertebrae was broken, and then they dig her up, and I don't know.
I'm saying also, I don't know. I feel like sure you could be committed to a story, but once the guy's like dead and gone and like everything's handled, and she's still like, no, this really, 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 really happened. I don't know. I'm like, maybe there's something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she could have after he died of the flu, she could have been like, I made it all up, you stupid jerks, and you believe in your face. But she's like, no, she came to see me.
Or I wonder if the evidence was actually so much more clear, and just because she was a woman and not being paid attention to, she just kind of actually used common sense and was able to figure it out as an investigator versus everyone else just kind of making guesses.
That's
a good point.
true.
If she like watched the funeral and was like, this idiot saying that's her favorite scarf. It's not even her favorite scarf. I
Yeah,
don't
she
know.
could have just pretended there was a ghost because no one would listen to her if she just said, I, a woman, know what happened. But you'll listen to a ghost.
And I didn't go to Harvard. So
No. What a time where they're like, oh, a ghost said it? We'll believe. But a woman? Nah, no.
She's
Liar.
hysterical. And who knows? Maybe she distracted Trout and she was able to see the fingerprints on her throat and said, oh, she got strangled, and just took a coincidental guess.
It feels like the very first episode of like Psych, where like maybe she's talking to a ghost or she's a medium in some way, but really she's just using investigative tools that nobody else was paying attention to.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true. She did tell her whole church group about it, though. So she couched it in terms of the Lord. She was like, God sent my daughter's ghost. And that way the church group was like, oh, you're not a devil. Okay.
Yeah.
God
Christian
sent
family. Remember, it's a Christian family.
God sent the
Well,
ghost.
if there's anything that's going to get you convicted in a courtroom back then, it was God and the paranormal, which I'm pretty sure we don't allow either of those into the courtroom in today's justice system.
Yeah, it's definitely hearsay.
Separation of court and ghost.
That's right.
So is like, if you say like God told me, is that hearsay too? Or is that just like, Looney
No,
Tunes,
that's
like,
100% fact. Yeah.
You can look that
I
up.
see.
Yes.
No, if you were saying God told you something and you're trying to offer that statement for the truth of the matter asserted, yes, because you can't. We would want God to say it directly in court.
Oh, right. So let's
might try to-
let's give him a minute.
You might try to make an argument that he's unavailable and try to fit it in a hearsay exception. But people say God's with us all the time, so I don't think that argument would work.
Right.
I feel God in this Chili's tonight.
Well, this was super fun, you guys.
My God. This
Thank
is
you so
you.
much for
Thank you.
being
I
a
think
part
we
of
even
this.
like talked about this like years ago on the show, and I like didn't know 90% of the story. I think I tried to cover it once
did you?
on like a flip episode where I was trying to do something ghostly, and I'm pretty sure I just didn't know 90% of the
Yeah,
facts.
I tried to search and I might have been bad at searching. Sorry about that.
No,
I also I would like to go back. I think I covered Moundsville a while ago. I'd like to go back and see if there was any crossover with a guy named Trout that I wasn't paying attention to.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be
There's a
pretty
lot of
cool.
names to go through. Edward, Erasmus. You'll
Yes.
Yeah.
He has
He's
a
all
lot
over
of
the place.
aliases. Yeah.
Greenbrier in general is a really haunted area. So
Oh.
I'm not in my mind, which no one else is paying attention to these thoughts, but it feels like the whole town is haunted, and therefore I'm going to trust that there was like a court that trusted a ghost there more than anyone
Of course
else.
they let it in.
It tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we gave the people what they wanted.
Yeah.
Thank you so
guys.
much for
So
having us.
Thank
Oh my
you for
gosh.
coming
Great.
on. Yes. And next we'll be on y'all's show also.
You
This
will.
Yeah.
Your production quality is astounding, by the way. Like just like I
Sam and I were
you.
making eyes at each other like, is this what we're supposed
we
to
should have actually been typing to each other. Like I usually I would just wait till we were done recording, but your audience should also know that
Yep.
wow, you did all of that in lifetime, ads, the voices, everything.
Oh, yeah.
It takes us about an hour to do ads.
I want you to
before
know
we-
though, like we've been doing this for 4 years, not even a lick close to whatever
No.
this was. You're about
So
to see
professional.
some real chaos on the other end of
We're
this.
into it. We love you.
I
and
love
your
it. I
chaos.
can't
We're
wait.
about
Yes.
to unravel. So
We always
Join
wonder
us.
for ourselves. We're like, we're probably just making way more work for ourselves.
Yeah.
I just grew up really loving the radio, so I just assume it's like a radio show and you just have to only do it. Just do it all.
I mean,
But-
genius.
You can like push stop. Like I think we're just doing too much.
I'm
No.
pretty sure like on our end, like Eva is thinking like, I can't believe this was just so seamless for this fucking show. And like, I spend a day a week just probably crying in my pillows having to edit everything. So
Well, you
4
should
hours.
see the amount of edits I give to Tommy is pretty egregious. So
Pages
it's
and pages.
pages and pages. So after I go through and listen to this, I will edit out like a ton of things. So
My favorite is when we first started, I was also trying to help with edits and I would have like 3. I was like, sounds great. And Christy's like, I have 4 pages. solid Google space. I was like, oh, I thought it sounded legit. Like, all right.
oh my
She's a lot more delicate ear than I do.
I am a very anal person. Yes. But
Put that on
yeah,
your
well,
gravestone.
thank you. I will.
Very
Yes, for
anal person.
more than one reason. Yeah. Mhm.
Well, thanks, guys.
She died doing what she loved. That's all I'm gonna say.
Period. End of story.
Fill in the blank.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys
Thanks,
so
guys.
much. We love providing Sinisterhood to you at no cost. So if you like what you hear, consider supporting the show by donating to our Patreon. We're a small operation, creating the show for you by researching, writing, recording, and producing it ourselves. Any amount is sincerely appreciated and helps offset the cost of making and hosting the show.
As a thank you, you'll get some sweet perks like ad-free episodes, a Sinisterhood sticker, which is all new with our all-new logo, and it's kind of enormous. It's 4x4. You're going to love it.
It's very large.
Envelopes. It's a whole deal. You also get membership to our exclusive Patreon Facebook group for those in the Ruling the Airwaves tier, a special shout-out on the show, a monthly bonus mini-sode, and patron-exclusive video and audio content, including Am I the Asshole?, relationship segments, Judge Christy, where Christy judges you. Just kidding. She judges people on the internet. But we also started Dear Sinister, where you can write in with all of your advice and questions, and we will just give you advice and tell you what to do with your life, but only if you ask.
You also
sign
know
up right now.
Please do. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
So many questions. I need so much advice.
Also, if you don't go follow them on Patreon, I Am Schultz will scream for the rest of eternity.
Oh,
Thank you.
You're so sweet.
That's a dangerous threat.
It's a
I
really
would love
obnoxious
that.
sound.
You also now have the fun perk of access to our Discord server, where you can connect with other fans in real time and discuss the latest in true crime, share personal ghost stories, or just post adorable pictures of your pets. We'll also hop on occasionally, and we're hosting monthly Q&As with Crowdcast, where you can ask us all your burning questions.
For your patrons not in the U.S., you also have the option to pay in pounds or euros, saving you the cost of the conversion fee. Annual memberships for all tiers are also now available. Those that choose this option will be rewarded with a free month of membership.
For more details on all of this and specific member tiers, visit sinisterhood.com and click Patreon on the top banner. And make sure you stick around after our sign-offs to hear your shout out.
So many of you have been tagging us in pictures of you sporting your sweet Sinisterhood merch. Keep those pictures coming. We have all new merch coming for you soon and an all new store launching soon. Send us in suggestions for t-shirts and things you would like to see, because we have some designers making some all new cool stuff for us right now. And if you want to get some cool Sinisterhood swag like t-shirts, mugs, totes, and even clothes for your kiddos, visit sinisterhood.com and click on shop on the top banner.
The best thing you can do to help us grow is like, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please tell a friend who you think would like us to check us out. It means so much to us and really helps podcasts like us get more exposure.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Sinisterhood Pod and like us on Facebook at Sinisterhood. Em and Christine, where can we find you on the internets?
You can find us at andthat'swhywedrink.com. You can also find our socials, all of our handles across the board are ATWWD podcast. We also have our own Patreon, which, wow, you just made ours feel very tiny. Oh my God. And in my own personal internet, you can currently find me on my own web browser, adding you on Patreon or joining Patreon right now.
Whatever. What are y'all's personal Instagrams? If you want people to follow you, I don't know if you give that out.
We love attention, as we said earlier.
Okay. Yeah, you're Geminis. You're Geminis. You want people
and you'll
following
have
you?
the blue checks now.
Yeah, you're verified.
It took me like over a year. Em got it over a year before I did, so I'm finally like joining the verified.
Totes legit.
Nice.
Super amped about it.
You can find me at the M Schultz.
And I'm at X-Teen Schiefer.
Nice.
And Christy, where are you at?
I am on Instagram at Christy M. Wallace and on Twitter at Christy or GTFO. Heather, where are you at?
I'm on Twitter at MCK versus the world and on Instagram at Heather versus the world.
As always, the devil rules the airwaves.
Keep it creepy. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for supporting the show on Patreon. Here are your special Patreon shout outs. Brianna Herman,
Casey Garver,
Connie Snow,
Lauren Fazio,
Tanya _916,
Nick Art,
Samantha Finn,
Paula K,
Karen Dressler,
Kirsty,
Bria Milberry,
Jay Dominguez,
Lindy Davis Smith,
Aaron Miller.
Technically Heather McKinney, because I accidentally signed up to try to get on the Crowdcast. It was a whole deal, but shout
I
out
left
to
it
myself.
in. I was like, we are not taking this out. This is going to be fun.
I paid my month, so I get my own
amazing.
shout out. Heather McKinney, support the show.
That's amazing.
Jamie,
Kelly Irvin,
Adriana Hughes,
Lee Westby,
Melissa Yancey,
Jessica Baker,
Chelsea,
Brandy Carson,
Cynthia Clark,
Rebecca Brink,
Lainey Crawford,
Megan Childress,
Kelly Height,
Artis Campbell,
Hannah Sage,
Joanna,
Jordan Trainer,
Kylie Wright,
Sarah Davis,
Michelle Kidd,
Heather Glasgow,
Deanna Woods,
Jessica Lynch,
Kimberly Ramirez,
Lexi,
Rosie Checksfield,
Nicole What do we want to say? ZXY.
There you go.
Zigzy?
Zigzy. Maybe it's like a student.
Or it's just a fun thing she put in. Yeah. So,
Zixie.
Nicole Zigzy or Nicole ZXY. Maybe it's sexy, but in a fun way.
Like a
Kyle
license plate.
XY?
It's actually Kyle X5. We both joined on the same day. Brooke Patterson,
Elaine Nicholas,
Lauren,
Jacqueline Hanks,
JJ,
Megan Combs,
Amber Osawes,
Laura Doherty,
Ashley Johnson,
and Abby. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We sincerely appreciate it, you guys. We couldn't do this without you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep it creepy.
Sinisterhood.